Welcome students. How are you guys? So good evening to all of you. Good evening Hitesh, Sudhanshu, Siddharth, Aini Khan, Mehman Rafiq Bhai, Meghna and to everybody. So students, day before yesterday, not day before yesterday, but on Saturday, we had started this chapter 5 on fraud. So we had understood the broad meaning of fraud, and we had also understood what induces some persons to be engaged in such type of activities. And we had also learned that fraud can be due to misstatements caused by fraudulent financial reporting and also due to misstatements caused by misappropriation of assets. And very importantly, guys, we had also understood that primary responsibility of prevention and detection of fraud lies with the management. The auditor comes into picture later on. He has to be vigilant. He has to perform the audit procedures. He has to conduct the audit in accordance with standards on auditing by maintaining professional skepticism throughout the audit period, right from the planning stage till the execution of work. And on performance of his audit procedures, on carrying out his audit, if he discovers fraud, then accordingly he has to report. So today, students, we shall be discussing how frauds are to be reported specifically in case of companies. So today we shall be understanding how frauds are to be reported in case of companies as per provisions of Companies Act 2013. Okay, is that clear to you guys? So there are specific law provisions which require auditor of a company to report fraud beyond certain threshold limits. Okay, so first of all, we shall understand the concept generally, and then we shall go into the detail. Okay, guys, you are able to hear me, students? Is audio video clear? Just drop a mail. Is audio video clear? Yes, guys. Is audio video clear? Should I start? So today, students, we shall be discussing fraud reporting in case of companies. There are two specific law provisions in this respect. One is section 143 subsection 12 of Companies Act 2013. Now this section 143 subsection 12, it specifically asks the auditor to report on frauds beyond a certain limit. Now, what are those limits? What is the procedure? This we are going to discuss. And another is reporting under CARO 2020. Now, guys, you will say, what is this CARO 2020? Now, students, for the time being, you can understand that CARO means Companies Auditor Report Order. Companies Auditors Report Order. So you would be discussing, this is a fairly long order containing about 21 clauses. Okay, so one clause relates to reporting a fraud. You would be studying this whole order, CARO 2020, in your chapter on company audit. That is chapter 10. So as far as this chapter is concerned, we shall be discussing only that portion of CARO 2020 which is related to reporting of fraud. Okay, students, is that clear? Both things are clear to you guys? So first, we shall be discussing section 143, subsection 12 of Companies Act 2013. Now, what does this section state? Guys, it states that if the auditor of a company, now remember, everything we are discussing here relates to company. If the auditor of the company in course of performance of his duties, so what does it mean? It means that he has been appointed as statutory auditor under Companies Act 2013, and in course of performance of his duties as an auditor, he has reasons to believe. What he has reasons to believe what? That a fraud is being committed in the company or has been committed in the company. Is being committed, it means it is still being committed and the auditor gets a sense that fraud is being committed, or it has been committed. Beyond a certain amount. Now, what is that certain amount? That is prescribed under the rules. Because you would have learned by now in your company law classes that many things are prescribed under the rules by way of delegated legislation. Okay, so the amount prescribed is rupees 1 crore or more. Guys, this is very important limit. Rupees 1 crore or more. So what happens is, so if the auditor of a company in course of performance of his duties as statutory auditor has reason to believe that an offense of fraud which involves or is expected to involve an amount of rupees 1 crore or more. Rupees 1 crore, that is the important limit. Rupees 1 crore or more. It means 1 crore is also included. Okay, individually. That means that if he finds 2 cases of fraud, then every case should be equal to or more than rupees 1 crore. Okay, then he has to report the matter to whom? He has to report the matter to central government. He has to report the matter to central government. Okay. And one more important thing, another condition is that fraud has been committed or is being committed by officers or employees of the company. By officers or employees of the company. That is also a condition. Officers or employees of the company. Then the auditor shall report the matter to central government. Okay. So is that clear to you guys? Yes. Students, is it clear to you? So now what is the procedure of reporting to central government? What is the procedure of reporting to central government? Now, if the auditor has reason to believe that fraud has been committed in a company of rupees 1 crore or more, or is being committed by its officer or employees, then there is a prescribed procedures under the rules. Now, what is that procedure? So there are many steps in it. First of all, he shall report it to the board or audit committee. Audit committee, not later than 2 days. So when the matter has come to his knowledge, first of all, he shall report the matter to the board or audit committee within a period of 2 days. So guys, you know what is audit committee? You would be reading about audit committee also in your chapter on company audit, that is chapter 1. So the provisions of audit committee are contained in section 177 of Companies Act 2013. Anybody of you? Yes, guys. Anybody of you? Hiral, Dhanlakshmi, Ayush, do you know what is audit committee? So the provisions of audit committee are contained in section 177 of Companies Act. So for the time being, you can understand that audit committee is a committee of directors. Basically, its purpose is to improve corporate governance. It has a say in the appointment of auditors. It also reviews financial statements and it also reviews the whole audit process, and it has a range of other functions also to do, which you would be learning in your chapter on company audit. But all companies are not required to form audit committee. The audit committee is required to be formed only in case of listed companies and in some other class of companies. That also you would be learning in your chapter 10 on company audit. So for the time being, you can understand this much, that all that listed companies and certain other class of companies are required to constitute an audit committee. Okay, so what is audit committee? The audit committee is a committee of directors whose basic purpose is to improve corporate governance. Okay, so it has a say in the appointment of auditors. It also sees the whole audit process, and it reviews financial statements. So in case of companies where there is audit committee, then the auditor shall report the matter to audit committee. In those companies where there is no audit committee, the matter shall be reported to the board, because there would be no audit committee. Okay. Yes, Dhanlakshmi, board or board of directors mean same thing. Now, Gaurav Shukla, who appoints the auditor? Gaurav Shukla, you would be learning all these things in chapter 10 on company audit. So, auditor is, there are many provisions regarding appointment of auditors. Broadly, you can understand that he is appointed by shareholders in AGM. Okay. So first of all, the matter shall be reported to the board or audit committee not later than 2 days. So the auditor has senses, or he has reason to believe, he has reasons to believe that a fraud is being committed or fraud has been committed by the officers or employees of the company. Then first step number 1, he shall report the matter to board or audit committee within 2 days. Now second step. Now the board or audit committee has to reply to the observations of auditor, that he is saying that, look, I have reason to believe that say fraud of 2 crore has occurred, and this is the case. He details all the reasons. So the reply to the observation of auditors is to be submitted by board to auditor within 45 days. Within 45 days. Yes, Ayush, you are saying we have been taught about audit committee and auditors in probably company law classes. Okay, then you already have the knowledge. You would be reading these provisions in chapter 10 on company audit, in the more specifically in the context of auditing. So what you had learned in your company law classes would be plainly legal provisions. Now their practical applications and their relationship with auditing and their description you would be learning in detail in chapter 10. Okay. Then reply to observations of auditors by the board or audit committee to the auditor within 45 days. Now what happens? Say the reply is received by the auditor. Then what he has to do? Within 50 days, within 15 days of receipt of reply, within 15 days of receipt of reply, he has to give his own observations and send a report along with the reply received from board of directors or audit committee to the central government. Okay. Clear, students? Is that clear? Yes. Is that clear? Now, some of you would say that what happens if the board does not reply? Say if the board or audit committee does not reply. Audit committee does not reply within 45 days. So the auditor has to wait for 45 days. If the board or audit committee does not reply within 45 days, then he shall send a report to the central government stating that this was my observation and I had sent a report to the board or audit committee, but this has not been replied to by the board or audit committee. Okay. Now to whom the report has to be sent? Now to whom the report has to be sent? Guys, we are saying that report has to be sent to central government. Now within the central government, to whom? Within the central government, to whom? The auditor cannot write to the central government. To which authority? Within central government, to whom? Now the report has to be sent to precisely to the Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. To the Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Okay, by registered post in a sealed cover. And it shall also be followed up by email. The report has to be on letterhead of the company, letterhead of the auditor, stating his address, phone number, and mobile number, and these sort of basic things. Okay, so guys, now the report to the Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs has to be sent in a specified form. Now you have to remember the name of this form. The form name is ADT4. What is the form name? ADT4. That is very important, guys. ADT4. The form in which report of fraud in a company involving an amount of rupees 1 crore or more is to be sent by the auditor of the company. It has to be in form ADT4. Clear, guys? Is it clear to you? The form has to be, the report has to be in form number ADT4. Is that clear? So guys, would you like to see how does form ADT4 look like? Yes, guys. Would you like to see how does form ADT4 look like and what are its contents? This is form ADT4. Students, this is form number ADT4. Report to the central government. Okay, so it is not in your module. I am showing it to you for the purpose of increasing your understanding and familiarity. Because once you have seen this form, number one thing would be that you would always remember the name of this form. And by seeing this form, you would remain accustomed to 2 or 3 points. What was stated in that form? What information does it ask for? Okay. So it asks report under subsection 12 of section 143 of Companies Act on suspected offence involving fraud or being committed or having been committed. So what the auditor has to state: name of the company, address of the company, name of the auditor or auditor's firm, his membership number, address, and particulars of the appointment of auditor, when he was appointed, at which AGM he was appointed, address of the office. Now he has to state address of the office or location where suspected offense of fraud is being committed. Where, at which location? At which location? Okay. And full details of offense involving fraud. Now he has to give a write-up of how fraud is being committed and also attach supporting documents. What evidence does he have to prove that fraud is being committed? He cannot say that I feel that fraud is being committed. It has to be backed by some evidence, some documentary evidence. Okay. And particulars of employees or officers who are suspected to be involved in the offense, because we already know section 143(12) deals with what? It deals with the offense of fraud by the officers or employees of the company. So the basic section 143 subsection 12, its scope is restricted to the offense of fraud involving an amount of rupees 1 crore or more by officers or employees of the company. Okay, only then it is to be reported to the central government. Basis on which fraud is suspected, period during which suspected fraud has occurred, date of sending report to the board or audit committee. We have already seen that first of all, the auditor has to give a report to the board or audit committee. It is only after he receives back the observations of board or audit committee, then he has to file the statement in ADT4 along with his comments. Okay, so it asks all those steps. So date of reply received from board or audit committee. Okay, whether the auditor is satisfied with the reply of the board, yes or no. Estimated amount involved in the fraud and verification. And also attachments. Now, what are the attachments? Any supporting documents he wants to include. Okay. So guys, you are now clear about section 143 subsection 12 regarding reporting of fraud by the auditor of a company. Any query? Any query of any student regarding this reporting requirement? Yes, guys. No query. So, and what happens, students, if the fraud amount is less than rupees 1 crore? What happens then? Say we have learned that if fraud amount is 1 crore or more, then the matter has to be reported to the central government, precisely to the Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, in accordance with the prescribed procedure which has been laid down in section 143 subsection 12 and relevant rules. So if the fraud amount is less than 1 crore, then the auditor has to report the matter to board or audit committee only, as may be applicable. Say, if the company is required to constitute an audit committee, if audit committee is there, then the matter shall be reported to the audit committee, otherwise to the board. Okay. And what should be reported? Three things are to be reported: nature of fraud, again the write up, कैसे fraud हो रहा है, amount involved, कितना amount है, and parties. Who are the parties? Who are the employees? Okay. Is that clear to you guys? Any queries? And in cases of frauds less than rupees 1 crore, which are not reported to the central government in form ADT 4, guys, you have to remember, then the matter has also to be disclosed in the board's report. Okay, then the matter has also to be disclosed in the board's report, stating again the same things: nature of fraud, amount involved, parties, and what remedial action has been taken. Okay. So now we shall see from your module before proceeding to reporting requirements under CARO. We shall see what does your module state. Now, as per section 143(12) of Companies Act, if an auditor in the course of performance of his duties as an auditor has reason to believe, so guys, you have to understand that he should have reason to believe. It doesn't mean that if he thinks, I know that there is something hanky-panky in the company, but he doesn't have any evidence in hand. It cannot be reason to believe. Merely because he suspects, mere suspicion is not reason to believe. सिर्फ शक के आधार पर reason to believe नहीं हो सकता. Reason to believe has to be backed by cogent evidence. Okay. That an offense of fraud involving such amount as may be prescribed, this is 1 crore or more, is being or has been committed. Is being or has been committed. Even it is being committed or has been committed. It is in the process of being committed or it has been committed. It has already been committed by its officer or employees. So two things are there. This section covers frauds committed by officers or employees of the company involving an amount of rupees 1 crore or more. Then only the provisions of reporting under this section are triggered. Is that clear to you guys? So the auditor shall report the matter to the central government within such time and such manner. Now, what is the such time and such manner? All the procedure we have discussed. So this amount is written here, rupees 1 crore or above. That is very important. So the manner of reporting to the central government is as follows. The auditor shall report the matter first to the board or audit committee immediately, but not later than 2 days of his knowledge of fraud, seeking their reply or observations within 45 days. So guys, remember timelines also, remember amount also, remember the name of the form in which reporting is to be made by the auditor. The form number was ADT4, very important. Remember within this lecture. So on receipt of such reply, the auditor shall forward his report and the reply or observation of the board or audit committee along with his comments to the central government within 15 days. Okay. In case the auditor fails to get any reply within 45 days, then he shall forward his report to the central government independently with a note containing that matter was sent to board or audit committee, but he has got no reply. So what option he is left with? Say he has sent his report to board or audit committee, but within the period prescribed under law, within period of 45 days, he doesn't get any reply. So he is left with no option but to forward his independent report to the central government along with the report he had sent to board stating that he had not received any reply from the board or audit committee. So the report shall be sent to whom? Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, in a sealed cover with acknowledgement due or speed post following by an email in confirmation of the same. The report shall be on the letterhead of the auditor containing postal address, email address, telephone number, etc. And the report shall be in the form of a statement as specified in ADT 4. Very important. So I think MCQ has also come in exams regarding what is the form number of reporting under this section. So form number ADT 4. We have already seen form number ADT 4. How does it look and what are its content? And I hope guys you have found it useful. So you have learned the contents of also form ADT 4. I hope that it would increase your understanding. So again, in case of fraud involving amount lesser than rupees 1 crore. So what we had learned, if the fraud amount was less than 1 crore, then the matter has only to be reported to board or the audit committee. Okay, clear? So in such cases, now what he shall state, nature of fraud, approximate amount involved, parties involved. And we had also discussed that in such cases where report is not required to be submitted to the central government, that means that amount is rupees 1 crore or it is less than rupees 1 crore, then the matter shall also be disclosed in the board's report. That is also important. That in case fraud amount is less than rupees 1 crore, then the auditor shall report the matter to board, and when the board is also submitting its report, the matter shall also be disclosed in the board's report. Okay, stating what was the fraud, nature of fraud with description, amount involved, approximate, because it may not be possible to there can be the case that it may not be possible to exactly pinpoint the amount, parties involved, and remedial action taken. Okay. So again, this whole overview, this is the chart overview given to you of what we have studied. So it is the same thing in the chart form, in the form of a diagram, which is there. And guys, very important thing, one more important thing, that these provisions of fraud, reporting of fraud, are also applicable to a secretarial auditor and to a cost auditor. This also you would be learning in your chapter on company audit, that in certain cases of companies, cost audit has to be conducted by cost auditor, and secretarial audit has also to be conducted in certain cases. So these professionals also have a duty to report fraud in accordance with this section 143 subsection 12. So all the provisions of this section which are applicable to the auditor of a company, to a chartered accountant, these are also applicable to a cost auditor and to a secretarial auditor. And now you have also to remember, guys, penal consequences. There are grave penal consequences if auditor does not report such thing to the central government in accordance with the procedure prescribed. Now there is a penalty on the auditor. Okay, so in case of listed company, he shall be liable to a penalty of rupees 5 lakh rupees. 5 lakhs. Remember, guys, important monetary limit. And in case of another company, he shall be liable to a penalty of rupees 1 lakh. Clear, students? Is that clear to you, students? And now, students, you have also to understand that while reporting under this section 143 subsection 12, the auditor has to report those frauds which in fact have been he have discovered them during the course of his duty, in the course of performance of his duties. So it could be entirely possible that say cost audit has been conducted before, okay, and cost auditor has discovered a fraud, or management's internal control system, it has already discovered a fraud. So what happens in that case is the auditor is required to report those frauds which have already been discovered. But plain reading of section 143(12) requires the auditor to report only those frauds which have been dug out by him in course of performance of his duties. Okay, so but in those cases where frauds have been discovered by somebody else, say by the cost auditor, and the amount is rupees 1 crore or more. So what is the procedure? So what the auditor has to do, he should review the steps taken by the management with respect to reported fraud. Say cost auditor has reported some fraud of rupees 1 crore or more in accordance with this section to the central government. Okay, now the matter has come to the knowledge of auditor also. Now the auditor, the fraud, the matter of reporting of fraud has already been made by the cost auditor. So what is the role of the statutory auditor of the company? Now he shall review the steps taken by the management, whether whatever the observations of the cost auditor were in relation to the reported fraud, now how his concerns have been addressed by the management. Now if he is satisfied with the steps taken by the management, the matter ends there. He need not report again report the matter to the central government. But say if he is not satisfied with the steps taken by the management, and he is of the opinion that certain additional audit procedures are required, then he can report the matter to the central government in accordance with the procedure prescribed under section 143 subsection 12. So what is there in your module? In case of fraud which involves or is expected to involve individually an amount of 1 crore or more, the auditor should review the steps taken by management with respect to reported instance of offense of fraud. But if he is not satisfied with such steps, he should state the reasons for his dissatisfaction and request the management to perform additional procedures to enable the auditor to satisfy himself that matter has been appropriately addressed. If management fails to undertake appropriate additional procedures within 45 days, then the auditor would need to evaluate if he should report the matter to the central government. Now, if the management has not addressed the concerns, say, of the cost auditor, and the auditor of the company, the statutory auditor, has also requested the management to address the concern, to perform additional procedures so as to address the matter appropriately, then it is okay. But if the management fails to take those additional procedures, then he shall report the matter to the central government. Okay, guys. So is that clear to you guys? Whole section 143 subsection 12, penal clauses, nature of section 143 subsection 12. Any queries? Yes, students, any queries on section 143 subsection 12? Please let me know. Any queries on section 143 subsection 12? Yes, guys. Or is everything clear to you? Drop your mails. Yes, students, no mails till now. Should I proceed further, or there are any queries? Please drop your mails now. I would also like to take a question from Ayush Agarwal in the last session. Ayush, are you hearing? Are you logged in, Ayush? So, Ayush, you had asked about that line in chapter 4 on risk assessment and internal control, which was there. You are saying to explain what is that example which shows relationship between sales and volume of goods sold, or relationship between sales and square feet of selling space. So what the example was trying to make you understand was that analytical procedures can also be used as risk assessment procedures. Okay, that analytical procedures can also be used as risk assessment procedures when auditor is assessing the risk at the financial statement level or at the assertion level. He can use analytical procedures. Now, what was the example of analytical procedures given in your module? Example is that what was the total sales of the company, and say the company runs the business of a store, and it has only one store from which it sells the goods. So what is the total square feet area where goods can be stored? Okay, and what quantity of goods can be stored? Say, and you presume that company deals in 2-3 type of products, and the auditor can roughly estimate that that this is the capacity of the store, this is the capacity of the godown, and by multiplying the rates and approximate quantity arrived at by calculating storage space, he can work out roughly estimate of the sales of the company, so that there are no unusual variations. Is it clear to you guys? Is it clear to you, Ayush? Please let me know. Ayush Agarwal, are you hearing me? Yes, Ayush. Ayush, have you understood? Yes, Ayush. No mails from you. Ayush Agarwal, is your query resolved? Please let me know. Please drop your mail. Yes, Ayush, no mail till now. Is the mailbox working? Ashok, is the mailbox working? Hello, Ashok. Yes, guys, any queries? No mail from your side? Students, please drop the mail so that I can know. Kindly drop your mails. I am not getting your mails, guys. Now we shall be discussing reporting of fraud under CARO 2020. Reporting of fraud under CARO 2020. So first of all, we shall understand it generally, and then we shall be going through your module. Fraud reporting under CARO 2020. So students, we have already discussed that there are many clauses under CARO 2020 which you shall be learning in your chapter 10. So one of the clause number 11, clause 11 specifically asks the auditor to report on frauds. Specifically asks auditor to report on frauds. Now, guys, you have to understand that this requirement of reporting is in addition to what we have learned in section 143, subsection 12. Okay, so this requirement is in addition to requirement of this requirement is in addition to the requirement of reporting of frauds involving amount of rupees 1 crore or more committed by the officers or employees of the company as contained in section 143 subsection 12. Now, what does clause 11 of CARO 2020 state? It states it has 3 subpoints, A, B, and C. Now, what are these 3 points? These 3 points are that the auditor has to report frauds noticed or reported during the year. Noticed or reported during the year. Either he has noticed or these have already been reported, and the nature and amount involved. What is the nature and what is the amount involved? Now here there is no limit of rupees 1 crore. Now this reporting requirement has no monetary limits. Okay. Whereas under section 143 subsection 12 we had learned that there was a monetary limit of rupees 1 crore or more where the matter was to be reported to the central government. But in case of report by the auditor in pursuance to CARO 2020, the auditor has to report those cases of frauds which have been noticed or reported and the nature and amount involved. So it does not restrict that fraud of rupees 1 crore or more are to be reported. Okay, if a fraud has been noticed or reported, then it has to be stated by the auditor. Okay, and B point is that auditor has to state whether he has reported fraud to central government, and in statement in ADT 4. Under this clause also he has to state of what he has already reported under section 143 subsection 12 in form ADT 4. Okay. And C point is regarding whistleblower complaints. Guys, I think there is some problem in mail and I am not getting your mails. So I would be checking it during break, because since a long time I have not been getting your mails. I think it has been 20-25 minutes that no mail has come. So whatever, you keep on sending your mails. If there are any queries, we will take it after break. So if there are any whistleblower complaints, then these have also to be reported. Now, what are whistleblower complaints? It is a sort of vigil mechanism. Say some employee or officer of the company or somebody else, he alerts the company's management regarding some wrongdoing, say regarding some fraud being conducted. Okay, so these types of things are known as whistleblower complaints. So the auditor has to report if any whistleblower complaint has been received during the year or not. Okay, So these are the reporting requirements under CARO 2020 in relation to fraud. Now students, now here we will also make a quick comparison between section 143(12) and reporting under. So guys, I want you to learn this here in this lecture. Reporting under section 143(12) and reporting under section and reporting in CARO 2020 pertaining to frauds. Now, what is the difference? Here, frauds are to be reported if amount is 1 crore or more. Here, there is no monetary limit. And here, auditor can report even an offense which is being committed or has been committed. Now, here only reported or noticed, which has been noticed by the auditor or which have already been reported. Okay, and another difference is that this requirement deals with frauds by officers or employees of the company. But here there is no such requirement. It can be fraud on the company or by the company. Okay, it is not restricted just to the officers or employees of the company. Is that clear to you guys? Now we shall see what is there in your module. So what is the requirement? Whether any fraud by the company or any fraud on the company. Whether any fraud by the company or any fraud on the company, even if some third party, say some vendor or some other person has committed a fraud on the company, what has been noticed or reported during the year, then it has to be reported. If yes, state the nature and amount involved. So the auditor has simply to state that this is the fraud and this is the amount involved. Amount could be even less than 1 crore or more than 1 crore. This reporting requirement does not deal with monetary limits. Okay. And the auditor is also required to report whether he has filed any report relating to fraud in form ADT4. It means that whether he has reported some fraud of 1 crore or more in form ADT4 to central government, then a summary has to be given here. Okay. And the third point is whether the auditor has considered whistleblower complaints, if any, received during the company. Say some whistleblower has made a complaint during the year. So whether the complaints made by whistleblower have been considered. So the auditor would like to see in relation to the complaints of the whistleblower, what steps have been taken by the management, whether these have been considered appropriately or not. Okay. So the auditor's inquiry under this clause is restricted to fraud noticed or reported, as compared to what we had seen under section 143(12), where fraud was to be reported whether it is being committed or has been committed. Okay. Reporting on filing of any report in form ADT4 and whistleblower complaints, if any, received during the year. Okay. And one more important thing is that mere reporting of fraud does not relieve the auditor of his responsibility to consider fraud and error in audit of financial statements. He has to design the audit procedures to consider misstatements caused due to frauds in the financial statements. Both of these requirements, 143 subsection 12 and CARO 2020 clause 11, these are only reporting requirements, students. You have to understand. These does not anyway relieve or diminish the responsibility of the auditor. He has to carry out the auditor. He has to carry out the audit in accordance with essays by maintaining professional skepticism, by deploying his audit procedures, by exercising due care and skill. Okay. Is that clear to you guys? Now, how the auditor would report this information in CARO 2020? Now, what audit procedures he would employ to report under clause 11 of CARO 2020? Now, students, we had learned that under this clause, he had to report three things. He had to report three things. What were those three things? First thing was frauds noticed or reported by the company or on the company. So now how the auditor would gather this information? What are the type of audit procedures he is going to apply? He would seek the information from management. He would inquire from the management. Okay. So therefore, the auditor should discuss with other members of the audit team. And also the auditor shall make inquiries of management, whether management is aware of any known fraud or suspected fraud that the company is investigating. Okay. And the second is the auditor shall examine the reports of internal auditor. Now, if the reports of internal auditor are there, if there is internal audit applicable to the company and there is an internal audit department, then he shall review the reports of internal auditor also. That whether internal auditor has pointed out some fraud, then he can see from the report of the internal auditor that this fraud has been reported by the internal auditor himself. So obviously, then on the basis of the report of internal auditor, he would state this fraud in clause 11 of CARO 2020. Okay. So the auditor should also examine the minutes of audit committee to see whether some instance of fraud was discussed in the meetings of audit committee and what action was taken by the audit committee. So he can take out this information from the minutes of the audit committee. So the auditor should inquire from the management about any frauds on the company that it has noticed or have been reported to it. And he can also take the information from other employees of the company or officers of the company. Auditor can also inquire from the management regarding any whistleblower complaints. Now, how the auditor can know whether any whistleblower complaint was made during the year or not? Obviously, he has to inquire from the management. So what is the best procedure for him to do? He would ask what? He would ask written representations. Written representation, guys, remember, we have already discussed about written representations in chapter 3. There was a whole essay devoted to it, written representations. So the auditor should obtain written representations from the management. Regarding what? that it acknowledges its responsibility for the proper accounting and internal control systems that are designed to prevent and detect fraud and error, and that effects of those uncorrected misstatements in financial statements are immaterial both individually and the aggregate to the financial statements as a whole, and all the facts have been disclosed to the auditor. So how does, because reporting requirement under this section is very wide, the auditor has to report frauds noticed or reported, frauds which have been committed by the company or which have been committed on the company. So the auditor, the written representation has also to be quite comprehensive, and it should expressly state that all facts have been disclosed to the auditor relating to frauds, and the management has disclosed to the auditor results of its assessment of risks that financial statement may be materially misstated as a result of frauds. Okay. So whose was primary responsibility to prevent fraud? Management. Now whose primary responsibility is to adjust financial statements for any misstatement? It is again primary responsibilities of management. So therefore, it is important that the auditor obtains written representations from management that any incorrected statements resulting from fraud are immaterial both individually in the aggregate. Now this step has to be confirmed by management. This step has to be confirmed by the management. That management acknowledges, management states that the possibility that there are still uncorrected misstatements resulting from fraud, its possibility is very, very insignificant. Its possibility is very, very immaterial. Okay. So such, however, but such representations, as we have already learned, are not a substitute for obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Obviously, we have already learned while doing written representations that written representations are not a substitute for audit evidence. These only provide corroborative evidence. These only provide supporting evidence. Okay. So the auditor should consider if fraud has been reported by them during 143.12. If they have already reported the fraud under section 143.12, then the matter is already in their knowledge and they know that they have filed ADT4. Okay. So the auditor has to report those cases. But this clause will include only the reported frauds and not suspected frauds. But since CARO 2020 asks auditor to report only suspected frauds, only reported frauds and not suspected frauds, therefore only frauds which are in the nature of reported frauds or noticed, which have been noticed by the auditor and these have already been reported, only those things are to be reported. Okay. And this we have already done. So here again the summary, this clause requires all frauds noticed or reported during the year shall be reported, indicating the nature and amount involved. Okay. as specified the fraud by the company or on the company. Fraud by the company or on the company are covered. Of the frauds covered under section 143(12), only noticed fraud shall be included, not the suspected fraud. Only noticed frauds, noticed and reported, not frauds which are suspected. Whereas under section 143(12), even if the auditor, if the fraud was being committed, even if that amount was rupees 1 crore or more, that even then it was to be reported. But here it is not that case. Okay. And while since there is no monetary limit under this clause, since there is no monetary limit under this clause, the auditor can consider the principles of materiality. Now, the act, the rules, the order does not specify the monetary limit here, but if the fraud is of the small amount and it is self-limiting in nature, then the auditor may not feel like reporting, because in case of, and the company is of very big, is dealing in big volume of operations. Okay. Now, auditor unable to continue the engagement. Say, in some exceptional circumstances, there could be the case that auditor believes that a fraud is being committed or has occurred in the company, and the result of the misstatement is going to be very huge. It is going to be very magnified. And the audit, it is very exceptional circumstances, then the auditor may decide to withdraw from the engagement. And if he withdraws from the engagement, then he first of all he shall see what are his responsibilities, professional and legal responsibilities. Like if he has been appointed under Companies Act, then whether he can do so, and whether the matter has to be reported to the MCA, or in case of listed company to the SEBI. So what are the regulations of regulatory authorities in this regard? Whether the regulations permit him to withdraw from the engagement, and he has to consider all these things before withdrawing from the engagement. However, finally, if he thinks, if the auditor withdraws, then discuss with appropriate level of management. First, he has to discuss with management that why he is withdrawing and the reasons of his withdrawal. First, he has to discuss with management and those charged with governance that why he is planning withdrawal. What are the sound reasons? What reasons have prompted him to withdraw from the engagement? Because he will tell them that look, that this fraud is being committed, and the magnitude of this fraud is so much, that magnitude of fraud is so great that the whole financial statements have gone haywire, that whole the results are vitiated. So in that case, he would take up the matter with the management and discuss reasons for withdrawal. And again the same thing, determine whether there is a professional or legal requirement to report to the persons who made the audit appointment or to the regulatory authorities, and reasons for their withdrawal. That is very important. So say before considering his decision, to withdraw from the engagement, the auditor has to consider the matter from all angles, from the point of view of law, keeping in mind legal provisions, from the point of view of any rules made by regulatory authorities. Okay, so these all these aspects have to be considered by him. All these aspects have to be discussed by him before withdrawing. He has to discuss the matter with the management, with those charged with governance, and only after he has considered, only after he weighs pros and cons of all the things, that whether it is possible for him to withdraw from the engagement due to legal provisions or due to some regulatory issues, then only he can take a decision on withdrawing from the engagement. Okay, guys, is that clear? Yes, students, is that clear to you? You keep on sending your mail, guys. You keep on sending your mails. For the time being, I am not getting your mails, but you keep on sending. So, guys, you have understood the two kinds of reporting requirements. Today, we have discussed two kinds of reporting requirements. One requirement is requirement of auditor to report frauds under section 143 subsection 12 of the Companies Act. And another requirement is under clause 11 of CARO 2020. CARO is Companies Auditors Report Order 2020. Now, again, I am summarizing these both requirements of what we have done till now. So, section 143 subsection 12 requires the auditor of the company to report a fraud of rupees 1 crore or more if the fraud is committed by officers or employees of the company, and whether it has been committed or it is being committed. It is in the process of being committed. So the auditor should have reasons to believe that fraud is being committed or has been committed. It cannot just be a rumor. It cannot just be a hearsay, or it cannot just be a suspicion. It has to be backed by proper evidence. Then only we can say that he has the reasons to believe. Okay, guys, you understand? What do we understand by reasons to believe? So there is a prescribed procedure detailed in section 143 subsection 12, detailing how fraud is to be reported. Now, first the matter is to be reported to the board or the audit committee. In those cases, in those companies where audit committee is required to be formed, where audit committee is there, the matter is to be reported to the audit committee, otherwise to the board, within 2 days of the matter coming to the knowledge of the auditor. So then the board or audit committee, as the case may be, they have to reply to the auditor within 45 days. If they reply, good enough. If they do not reply, then within next 15 days, the auditor shall give the report to the central government, precisely to the Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, in form ADT4. Remember, guys, in form number ADT4, we have also seen how does form ADT4 look like. Okay. And if the fraud amount is less than rupees 1 crore, then the matter has to be reported to the board or audit committee, whichever is applicable. Okay, is that clear? And in case of CARO 2020, we had seen that CARO 2020 is an order in which the auditor has to give a report on many issues. Okay, there are about 20-21 clauses in CARO 2020. You would be studying in detail about CARO 2020 in your chapter on company audit, that is chapter 10. And one clause in CARO 2020, clause number 11, relates to reporting of frauds. Now here, the frauds have to be, only those frauds have to be reported by the auditor which have been noticed or reported. No suspected frauds which have been noticed or reported during the year, irrespective of the amounts, and whether these frauds have been committed on the company or by the company. So there is no monetary limit within in this requirement, and it is the call of the auditor to report even small amounts, keeping in view the factor of materiality involved. Okay, and second clause is clause B of this requirement is that auditor has to again state that whether he has reported fraud under ADT 4, whether he has filed a statement as required under section 143 subsection 12, that is precisely ADT 4. And third point is that whether company has received any whistleblower complaints during the year, and whether the auditor has considered those whistleblower complaints. So whistleblower complaints, I have already told you that these are a kind of vigil mechanism. Say somebody alerts the company, the management of the company, that this person is committing fraud. So it is a whistleblower complaint. So the matter is normally considered by the board. Whistleblower complaints are considered by the board or audit committee. So the auditor has to report whether what was the whistleblower complaint, whether company has considered it, and whether the procedures deployed by the company was appropriate, whether the concern of whistleblower complaint was addressed or not. Okay, guys. So is that clear to you? Is that clear to you, guys? Section 143, subsection 12, and reporting of frauds under CARO 2020. Keep sending on your mails. And not the last but not the least, if the fraud is of such a magnitude in some exceptional circumstances, then if the auditor considers that it is not possible to continue with the engagement, then he may consider withdrawing from the engagement by first discussing the matter with the management, and also keeping in mind all the law provisions, all the legal provisions, all the regulatory provisions. What could be the effect? Whether the regulations permit him to withdraw or not. Okay. Okay, guys, is it clear? So I think we shall take a break for 10 minutes at this stage. And guys, hope to see you after 10 minutes. And I Yeah. Welcome back, students. So now, students, we have with us CA Shri Rajiv Sachdeva, faculty from Board of Studies, and I think you have already listened to him uh, in one of your probably in one of your classes. So, guys, just he would be giving a few words of wisdom to you, how to prepare for the exams, and some very important information. So, guys, please listen to him very carefully. And whatever doubts you have, do not hesitate to ask from him, because he is from Board of Studies, so he can tell you the things authoritatively. Okay, guys. So over to you, Rajiv sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And good evening. Good evening, all of you students. Very good evening, students. And thank you, Ashish, for... Yes, students, in the last lecture with CA Nancy Singla, we just discussed about strategies. First of all, what you need is concept building. Your entire focus should be on concept building, and that is what you are doing since class 1, chapter 1. CA Sheesh Belji and CA Nancy Singla both are just doing concept building. Conceptual clarity is very must. Before you go ahead, before you write the examination, conceptual clarity plays more than 50% role. And balance 50% is also very important. Only concept building will not, you will not be able to write in the examination, because I told you earlier in the last lecture, because every subject has its ABC, and you have to have full grip on your ABC first. And I gave you one task in the last lecture to do 5 definitions, which is not a big task. It is just a matter of 1 hour or so in one day. And if you remember, if you are able to practice, I should say, 5 definitions on daily basis, and 4 days I think have gone. I came on the last Thursday, and 4 days have gone. You have the reservoir of, say, 20 definition or so at this moment of time. So I want to know from you, all of you, whether you did 5 definitions on daily basis or not. I want your response on that. Whether students are able to do 5 definitions on daily basis, and till this time you should be having backup of 20 definition. और 20 definition ऐसे होने चाहिए students जैसे जब मर्जी सुन लो, whenever. So Ashish ji, can you tell me कि any students, what is the students' response?
Yes, I'll check and tell you. There is some issue on my laptop, so I'll let you know on another PC by checking their mails. So please, students, please. You just drop your mails and tell Rajiv sir whether you have learned the definitions as he had advised to you. So students, just drop your mails with lightning speed, very fast. Drop your mails so that we can tell him whether you have learned the definitions and what kind of definitions you have understood. Also write, not yes. only number, what you have learned, and if there are any issues cropping up, then yes, you yes, also
I wanted to address the issues. If they are facing some problems in learning or they did not understand what I conveyed in last lecture, so I will elaborate it further. This is what I mean to say.
Yeah.
So students.
Yeah, Rajiv ji, you continue. I will check the mails.
Okay, sir. Okay. Taking last lecture forward, I will share some other techniques also. In last lecture, students, I told you that you practice for at least any definition, pick up the definition and you practice it for, say, you read it for 5 times, carefully reading for 5 times. And that practice, you should continue on one definition for 5 days. And then the definition, that particular definition will get established in your mind, like it will become cemented in your mind. Then you can narrate at any time, any moment of time. अब कभी भी आपसे कोई सुन ले, आप सुना सकते हो. तो आपने उम्मीद है ये प्रैक्टिस की होगी स्टूडेंट्स. Now I will take the things forward. लास्ट लेक्चर में स्टूडेंट्स मैंने एड्रेस किया था कि स्टूडेंट्स कहते हैं कि हमारी अंडरस्टैंडिंग तो है लेकिन मार्क्स में कन्वर्ट नहीं होती. तो उसका मैंने आपको भी, आप पहले आप क्या करो, प्रेपरेशन पे ध्यान दो. फर्स्ट डू देन डिजर्व. आप अभी पहले क्या करो, अपनी प्रेपरेशन पे ध्यान दो. आप अपनी जो स्ट्रेटजीज मैं आपको सिखा रहा हूं उस पर ध्यान दो. लाइक आप अभी लर्निंग, अंडरस्टैंडिंग प्लस लर्निंग पे ध्यान दो. You just focus on understanding, focus on practice, so that things get established in your mind. And once the things are established, you will enjoy learning the subject. That will become enjoyment. And whatever you will write in the examination, it will come as commanded language. Then language will not be a problem and you will not lose any marks. This is what I mean to say. Yes, are there any queries, sir?
Yes, I have checked the mails, but they have not raised any queries. Somebody is writing that I could not learn 20 definitions, but I have learned 15. Somebody is saying 10. Somebody is saying 5. But one common refrain in some of the mails is that they are finding it difficult to remember keywords.
Okay.
So you continue, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay. Yes, students, you are finding it, sir said that you are finding it, students are finding it difficult to remember keywords. You will have this difficulty only till 25-30 definitions. Please rest assured. आपको स्टूडेंट्स जो ये दिक्कत आएगी पहली 25 डेफिनेशन करने में आएगी. कीवर्ड्स आप भूलेंगे फिर याद करेंगे, भूलेंगे फिर याद करेंगे, और 5 दिन कंटिन्यूअसली करिए. बिलीव मी, 25 डेफिनेशन करने के बाद आपका ऑडिटिंग के अंदर फ्लो और कॉन्फिडेंस अपने आप ही जबरदस्त हो जाएगा. तो इसलिए स्टूडेंट्स आप जो डेफिनेशन है वो अच्छे तरीके से कर लो और प्लीज कंटिन्यू दिस प्रैक्टिस. माय कॉम्प्लीमेंट्स टू दो स्टूडेंट्स जिन्होंने 15 डेफिनेशन कर लिए और जिन्होंने 10 डेफिनेशन भी करे, वो भी उनके लिए भी अच्छा है. और जिन्होंने नहीं करे, स्टार्ट इट फ्रॉम टुडे इटसेल्फ. दो स्टूडेंट्स हु डिड नॉट डू, स्टार्ट इट फ्रॉम टुडे इटसेल्फ. last lecture Parth Shah was there with Nancy Singla and me, and what he had said to me that, sir, I have followed techniques so far. I have followed your technique so far, and he has scored 67 marks in auditing and 16th rank in on all India basis. So Parth Shah, he just on the response page, what he wrote at that time when I was advising about the strategies, how to prepare and so on. So what he wrote was, sir, I have followed your techniques so far. And he has got 16th rank on all India basis and 16th rank. He is having 16th rank and 16th 67 marks in auditing. He is doing wonder. So students, what you need to do is, what I am suggesting, just suggesting you start implementation from today itself. The problem with us is that we do not start implementation. Problem सिर्फ एक ही जगह पर है स्टूडेंट्स, कि हम implementation शुरू नहीं करते. हम कहते हैं अच्छा चलो कल से कर लेंगे, परसों से कर लेंगे. Do not do this. आप आज से शुरू करो. जो मैंने आपको स्ट्रेटेजी बताई है, आप आज से शुरू कर दो, और आपको रिजल्ट्स, बिलीव मी, 10 डेज के बाद आपको बहुत जबरदस्त इसके रिजल्ट आने शुरू हो जाएंगे, मिलने शुरू हो जाएंगे, और आपको एक अलग तरह का कॉन्फिडेंस ऑडिटिंग के अंदर आना शुरू हो जाएगा. Yes, another point, students, which I would focus is.
Yes, sir. There is a query from Fatima Bindu.
Okay.
She is asking how to present standards on auditing in the exams.
Okay.
And Kartik Gupta is asking that he is trying to remember the keywords and definitions by preparing acronyms. Okay.
Whatever way you prepare the definition, whatever way initially, but my suggestion to you is, especially for Kartik Gupta, you do it whatever manner you do. You learn, you practice, but do it continuously for 5 days. If not, you are unable to do it for 5 days, practice at least for 3 days, not lesser than 3 days. You should practice for at least 3 days, because 5 days is such a period, students. If 5 days में तो establishment आपके mind में पूरी definition establish हो जाएगी. और if you feel कि 3 days में अच्छे establish हो गई है, तो चलो time अगर paucity है आपके पास और subjects भी करने हैं and both groups भी आप दे रहे हो, तो 3 days तक तो जरूर करो. This is what my suggestion. 3 days से नीचे compromise ना करो, नहीं तो फिर क्या होगा? Things will not get established in your mind. And this process, you believe me कि अगर आप 10 days तक कर जाओगे, 11th day आपको enjoyment होनी शुरू हो जाएगी, और आपके पास पूरा वर्ड्स का एक खजाना होगा, पूरा आपके पास बैकअप होगा, पूरा वर्ड्स का ऑडिटिंग में जो कीवर्ड्स हैं, और you will be very comfortable using keywords which are repeatedly you see in auditing. So that will not be a problem for you, Kartik Gupta. Specifically, I am addressing Kartik Gupta. And another student has asked the query, another student, Bindu Fatima.
Yeah, Fatima Bindu.
Fatima Bindu. You are saying कि essays को एग्जाम में हम प्रेजेंट कैसे करें? essays सबसे पहले, essays मुश्किल नहीं है स्टूडेंट्स. essays are not difficult, believe me. essays में आपको क्या करना है? essays सबसे पहले आप जो जैसे डेफिनेशन मैंने बताया, आपके पास 50-100 डेफिनेशन, कम से कम 50 डेफिनेशन का पहले रिजर्व बनाइए, बैकअप बनाइए. उसके बाद आप पिकअप करिए जो क्वेश्चन स्टडी मटेरियल में, जो पॉइंट वाइज स्टडी मटेरियल में लिखे हुए, उन पे फोकस करो पहले फर्स्ट फेज के अंदर. मैं ये बिल्कुल नहीं कह रहा कि बाकी क्वेश्चन छोड़ दो. आप जो पॉइंट्स वाले क्वेश्चन है जो स्टडी मटेरियल में लिखे हुए हैं, जो हमने ऑलरेडी उनके आंसर दिए हुए हैं, एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ ऑडिट, देन एडवांटेजेस ऑफ ऑडिट, जो एसे बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस हैं, जो स्टडी मटेरियल के आप पहले पेज से शुरू हो जाइए, और जो पॉइंट वाले क्वेश्चंस हैं. अब सेकंड फेज में मैं आपको ये बता रहा हूँ, पहले फेज में फर्स्ट डे मैंने आपको डेफिनेशन बताए थे करने के लिए. अब आप साथ साथ क्वेश्चंस भी पिकअप करने शुरू कर दो. Those students who have already completed 20, say 15 definition, 10 definition, now simultaneously you can pick up the questions. And questions students आप कैसे पिकअप करोगे? आप जिन क्वेश्चंस के अंदर पॉइंट्स लिखे हुए, डायरेक्ट पॉइंट्स लिखे हुए स्टडी मटेरियल में, उन क्वेश्चंस को पहले आप तैयार करना शुरू करो. नाउ यू विल से कि हम उसे तैयार कैसे करेंगे? अब आप उसे तैयार कैसे करो? आप क्वेश्चन के जो पॉइंट्स हैं, एक एक पॉइंट पे फोकस करके आप उसे एटलीस्ट 5 टाइम्स रीडिंग दो, और फॉर एटलीस्ट 2 डेज. जो क्वेश्चंस हैं उनमें आप 3 दिन तक या 5 दिन तक मत जाओ. वो आप कम से कम 2 कॉन्सेक्टिव डेज पे तक तो जरूर करो, और फिर आप मंथली रिवीजन कर सकते हो उसे। तो 2 दिन लगातार, एक दिन पढ़ के नहीं छोड़ना। दिस इज माई सजेशन टू ऑल ऑफ यू। एक दिन पढ़ के छोड़ोगे तो फिर सीमेंटेड माइंड में स्टेब्लिश होएगा ही नहीं, ठीक है। व्हाट यू हैव टू डू इज you have to read at least for 5 to 10 times depending on your potential. आप 5 बार से लेकर 10 बार तक, जब तक आप किताब बुक को बिना देखे, जब तक आप पॉइंट नरेट नहीं कर देते अपने आप से, तब तक उसे ना छोड़ो। चाहे whether you want you read for 5 times, 7 times, 9 times, 10 times, it's okay. आप जितना भी उसे प्रैक्टिस करेंगे उतना वो क्वेश्चन पॉलिश हो जाएगा। और कम से कम मेरी सजेशन सबको ये है कि कम से कम 3 hours a day, दिस इज मिनिमम, आप ऑडिटिंग जरूर ही पढ़ें और डेली बेसिस पे पढ़ें इस सब्जेक्ट को टिल एग्जामिनेशन जब पास आ जाता है। अभी 3 महीने बहुत पास आ गया एग्जाम, 3 सवा 3 महीने, तो आप 3 महीने ऑडिटिंग से डिस्टेंस नहीं बनाना है, आपने रोज पढ़ना है डेली, ऑन डेली बेसिस। तभी आप सब्जेक्ट के टच में रहते हो और ये आपके माइंड में स्टेब्लिश धीरे धीरे हो जाएगा, बिलीव मी। तो आपकी जब तैयारी हो जाएगी तो आप अपने आप से जो क्वेश्चन आप जब पढ़ रहे हो ना स्टूडेंट्स, तो आप साथ साथ ये जरूर सोचो कि ये क्वेश्चन एग्जाम में कैसा पूछा जाएगा। वो सर ने भी आपको बताया, नैन्सी सिंगला मैडम ने भी बताया कि क्वेश्चंस कैसे आते हैं, सब एवरीथिंग इज ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड। आप भी जब रीडिंग करते हुए केयरफुली जब आप रीडिंग करते हो तो साथ साथ ये जरूर आपने सोचना है कि ये क्वेश्चन एग्जाम में कैसे पूछा जा सकता है। And one thing more, whether it is asked in the past examination, because suggested answers website पे हमने होस्ट किए हुए हैं, RTPs are host, तो देखो एग्जाम में कहीं RTP में क्वेश्चन आया हुआ है या नहीं आया हुआ, ये भी चेक कर लो और कैसे पूछा गया। तो ये आप जरूर प्रैक्टिस करो इस चीज की। आप कम से कम एक दिन में 5 क्वेश्चन जरूर, इस स्टेज तक आते आते एक दिन में 5 क्वेश्चन तो कम से कम 3 hours के अंदर आप आधा पौना घंटा डेफिनेशन को दो और बैलेंस टाइम जो आप 5 क्वेश्चन कम से कम हर रोज जरूर तैयार करो अच्छे तरीके से। और अगर आप 10 दिन तक ये प्रैक्टिस कर लोगे क्वेश्चन, 10 दिन तक, अगर आप 10 दिन में आप देखोगे आपके 50 क्वेश्चन, 50 क्वेश्चन, यू आर डन विद 50 क्वेश्चन। और व्हाट अबाउट स्पीड? आप कहोगे सर इतना तो इनफ नहीं है, आई एग्री कि इतना इनफ नहीं है, लेकिन 10 डेज के बाद आपकी स्पीड स्टूडेंट्स ऑटोमेटिकली बढ़ जाएगी, आपको बढ़ानी नहीं पड़ेगी, आई एश्योर यू। तो आप 10 डेज के बाद अपनी स्पीड देख लेना, उसमें डिफरेंस आपका वैसे रोज ही आएगा, लेकिन आप 10 डेज बाद अपने आप को असेस करो, आपकी स्पीड बढ़ जाएगी और आपका लिखने का कॉन्फिडेंस। बिंदु वाज आस्किंग कि प्रेजेंट कैसे करना है, अभी आप 10 डेज कर लो और 10 डेज आई विल कीप ऑन कमिंग इन ऑल लेक्चर्स ऑलमोस्ट। तो 10 डेज बाद आप मुझे दोबारा ये क्वेश्चन करना कि क्या आपका क्वेश्चन रह जाता है। और लिखने की बीच में अगर आप 10 क्वेश्चन कर रहे हो, say after 3 days you will have 15 questions with you which you have prepared, तो आप उसको एक दो क्वेश्चंस लिख के भी प्रैक्टिस कर लिया करो, तो उससे आपको लिखने की भी प्रैक्टिस आ जाएगी। और इसे फिर सजेस्टेड आंसर से या आरटीपी में आंसर्स ऑलरेडी दिए हुए हैं, एक बार उससे कंपेयर कर लिया करो। तो दिस इज हाउ यू हैव टू। तो ये स्किल है, एक धीरे धीरे आएगी। सर भी आपको मेरे ख्याल से कभी गाइड करेंगे, सर भी आपको गाइड करेंगे कि कैसे आंसर प्रेजेंट करने चाहिए एग्जाम में, बिकॉज ही इज द मास्टर ऑफ दिस ऑडिटिंग गुरु आई कॉल हिम। तो आपको सर भी कॉल बताएंगे कि कैसे आंसर्स लिखने हैं, तो ही विल कीप ऑन टेलिंग यू इन अदर लेक्चर्स आल्सो। कैन यू गाइड सर अबाउट कि हाउ टू प्रेजेंट आंसर्स?
Thank you for so flattering words which may not be deserving to be, but lekin students, I would like to tell you that while preparing you have to make a conversation with yourself. आप खुद, अब you read a chapter, you read a topic, you converse with yourself. आप अपने आप से पूछो, आप अपने माइंड से पूछो कि व्हाट यू हैव लर्न। आपने आधा चैप्टर पढ़ लिया, व्हाट यू हैव लर्न, और आप एनालाइज करो, रिपीट करो अपने माइंड में बार बार कि उस पॉइंट और उस पॉइंट में क्या डिफरेंस था। एनालिटिकल अप्रोच चाहिए। सो जैसे कि लाइक टुडे वी वर डिस्कसिंग सेक्शन 1 रिपोर्टिंग रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ फ्रॉड अंडर सेक्शन 143 सबसेक्शन 12 and reporting requirement of fraud under CARO 2020. ये दोनों टॉपिक स्टूडेंट्स, बोथ दिस टॉपिक्स आर गिवन सेपरेटली इन दिस चैप्टर. कहीं मॉड्यूल में आपको कोई एनालिटिकल क्रॉस कंपैरिजन नहीं दिया गया है, लेकिन अगर आप क्रॉस कंपैरिजन खुद अपने दिमाग में करोगे तो आपके दिमाग में ये याद रहेगा कि 143.12 में कौन सा पॉइंट था और CARO 2020 में कौन सा पॉइंट था. दोनों चीजें फ्रॉड के साथ रिलेटेड है. मैंने आपको कंपैरिजन करके दिखाया है.
Should I continue, sir?
Yes, definitely.
तो स्टूडेंट्स, जैसे सर ने बताया कि आप एनालिटिकली पॉइंट्स को जब आप स्टडी करो 5 टाइम्स आपने रीड करना है. मैंने आपको स्ट्रेटजी बताई 5 टाइम्स रीड. ये तो आप एक अपने साथ लेके ही चलो हमेशा कि 5 टाइम्स रीड करे बिना ना छोड़ना उसे, क्योंकि 5 टाइम्स रीडिंग अपने आप में एक ऐसा टूल है स्टूडेंट्स. ये मिनिमम बता रहा हूं. आप ऐसा नहीं कि हर स्टूडेंट इसको 5 बार पढ़ के ही छोड़ दे, ऐसा ना करें. डिपेंडिंग अपॉन योर पोटेंशियल मिनिमम 5 टाइम्स मैं बता रहा हूं. आप 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 टाइम्स तक जा सकते हैं. और शुरू में आपके नंबर ज्यादा होगा 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. बाद में आप देखोगे जब आपको प्रैक्टिस हो जाएगी, व्हेन यू विल प्रैक्टिस अ लॉट, तो आपका ये नंबर भी कम होना शुरू हो जाएगा. आपको 5 बार में आपके माइंड में सेटल होनी शुरू हो जाएंगी चीजें. और प्रैक्टिस इट, जो क्वेश्चन आंसर है दैट यू शुड प्रैक्टिस फॉर 2 days एटलीस्ट. और जैसे सर ने बताया, आप अपने माइंड में उनको घुमाओ अच्छी तरह, एनालिटिकली उसे सोचो. और आप एनालिसिस करके अगर करोगे तो वो फिर क्वेश्चन जब आपके एग्जाम में आएगा तो आपने पहले एनालिसिस किया हुआ है, तो आप उसे प्रॉपरली लिख पाओगे. दिस इज व्हाट आई मीन टू से. और सर ने बहुत अच्छे से आपको बताया जैसे कि एनालिटिकली आपने सोचना है. ऐसे नहीं सोचना कि आपने उसको रीड कर अब ये हो गया और आगे चलो. और कभी भी स्टडी में ये रूल आप बिल्कुल लिख लो कहीं पर अच्छी तरह से कि नेवर डू हरी इन योर स्टडी. आपने स्लो करना है. लर्निंग हैज टू बी वेरी स्लो. जितनी आप स्टूडेंट स्लो लर्निंग करोगे उतना आपको फायदा ज्यादा होने वाला है, उतनी चीजें आपके माइंड में एस्टेब्लिश ज्यादा हो जाएंगी. तो आपको स्लो लर्निंग करनी है. और इस तरह से स्टूडेंट्स आप 10 days की मैं आपको टाइम दे रहा हूं. मैं बीच बीच में आता भी रहूंगा. जैसे आज मैं पूछ रहा हूं आपने कितने डेफिनेशन कर लिए, तो अभी आपने डेफिनेशन ज्यादा नहीं की, लेकिन आपने कुछ स्टूडेंट्स ने स्टार्ट कर दिया. तो आई एम हैप्पी कि कुछ स्टूडेंट्स ने स्टार्ट कर दिया. और मैं सभी स्टूडेंट्स को रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि आप एडवाइस करूंगा, रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा, आपको गाइड करूंगा कि आप उसे शुरू कर दें अगर नहीं करा तो. और जिन्होंने शुरू ऑलरेडी, दोज हु हैव ऑलरेडी स्टार्टेड, दे मस्ट कंटिन्यू एंड शुड नॉट वेट फॉर कि अभी आज नहीं कल कर लेंगे, ऐसी उसको आगे ना टाले ना. एटलीस्ट
एक क्वेरी हिरल पारिक से है. There is one query from Hiral Parik.
Yes, sir.
He is asking, is it necessary to write too many points considering weightage of the question in the paper?
Yes, students, अगर तो ये बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन है. If there are, say, question is carrying 4 marker, if there is 4 marker question और पॉइंट्स बिल्कुल छोटे छोटे हैं, तो आप 8 पॉइंट लिख सकते हो अगर जल्दी लिखे जा रहे हैं. अगर पॉइंट बिल्कुल ही छोटा, जैसे आधी लाइन में, हाफ लाइन में पॉइंट जा रहा है, तो आप 8 पॉइंट लिख सकते हो. और अगर पॉइंट बड़ा, एक्सप्लेनेशन उसमें ज्यादा इन्वॉल्व है, तो आप 4 मार्कर में 4 पॉइंट लिखो. अगर तो क्वेश्चन के अंदर एक्सप्लेनेशन, आंसर के अंदर एक्सप्लेनेशन नहीं है और 1 लाइनर ही आ रहे हैं या हाफ लाइनर ही आ रहे हैं आंसर, इसका मतलब पॉइंट बहुत छोटा है. ठीक है, फ्यू वर्ड्स आर देयर, तो आप उसको 8 पॉइंट्स उसके बना सकते हो. और हरी में तो क्वेश्चन आंसर बिल्कुल फिनिश नहीं करना. एग्जाम में टाइम कम होता है, ऑफ कोर्स यू हैव टू टेक केयर ऑफ द टाइम. और अगर क्वेश्चन एक्सप्लेनेशन ज्यादा इन्वॉल्व है, अगर एक्सप्लेनेशन ज्यादा इन्वॉल्व है, तो आप 4 मार्कर क्वेश्चन है तो आप 4 पॉइंट्स ही लिखने हैं. फिर ज्यादा पॉइंट्स आपको, अगर से एक्सप्लेनेशन जो है, एक पॉइंट की एक्सप्लेनेशन 2-3 लाइंस तक जा रही है, 2-3 लाइन तक जा रही है, तो आप उसको 4 पॉइंट से ज्यादा लिखने की आपको जरूरत नहीं है। ऐसे बेस्ड क्वेश्चन की इन पर्टिकुलर बात कर रहा हूँ। लेकिन कंपनी लॉ का अगर क्वेश्चन है तो लॉ बेस्ड क्वेश्चन में तो फिर आपको पूरा पॉइंट कोई ना, आपने उसमें ये देखना कि कोई लॉ रिलेटेड स्टैट्यूटरी कोई पॉइंट नहीं छूटना चाहिए। दैट्स द मेन थिंग।
Rahul is asking how to prepare the notes in auditing, and Dhanlakshmi is asking, I forget after remembering for few days.
First of all, Rahul, what Rahul is asking?
He is asking how to prepare notes.
How to prepare notes? Yes. Rahul, आप सबसे पहला जो मैंने आपको अभी conceptual understanding, then you need to learn the definition for 5 days, और फिर आप क्वेश्चन की प्रेपरेशन शुरू करो। आपने अगर क्वेश्चन की प्रेपरेशन करी, आपने से क्वेश्चन में 7 पॉइंट्स इन्वॉल्व है, अब आपने 7 पॉइंट्स को 5 टाइम्स रीड कर लिया, 2 दिन तक रीड कर लो। अब रीड इट फॉर 2 डेज। अब 2 दिन रीड करके आप उस क्वेश्चन के आंसर आप अपनी राइटिंग से, उससे बिना बुक को देखे आप उसे लिख लो। दैट विल बिकम योर नोट्स। और आप उसे, बिकॉज जो आप खुद से लिख रहे हो, आप एक बार मुझे अगर हो सके तो आप मुझे मेल पे डाल देना क्वेश्चन, आई विल चेक इट कि आप कैसे नोट्स, आप नोट्स एक ब्रीफ नोट्स भी बना लो। ब्रीफ नोट्स इन द सेंस कि जो आपको एग्जाम टाइम के अंदर काम आएंगे, और आप अपनी लैंग्वेज में लिख लोगे तो बहुत ही अच्छा हो जाएगा। और एक बार आप लैंग्वेज एक बार मेरे से चेक करा लेना, आप मुझे मेल करके rajiv.sachdeva@ici.in पे। आशीष जी भी आपको मेरा ईमेल आईडी दे देंगे अभी लास्ट लेक्चर के लास्ट में, वैसे मैंने बोल ही दिया है, rajiv.sachdeva@ici.in पे आप मेल कर देना मुझे। और फिर मैं फोन नंबर हर लेक्चर के अंदर शेयर कर रहा हूँ। आशीष जी भी लास्ट में मेरे फोन नंबर आप शेयर कर देंगे, और आप कोई भी क्वेरी कि आपने ये नहीं कि मैं लेक्चर में आऊंगा तो ही पूछना है, आप मुझे डायरेक्ट फोन करके पूछ सकते हो। मैं इन एवरी लेक्चर आई एम शेयरिंग माई कॉन्टेक्ट नंबर, 2 नंबर मैं अपने शेयर करता हूँ। और स्टूडेंट्स आप मुझे कभी भी कॉल कर सकते हो, और मैं कॉल बैक, अगर फोन नहीं उस समय बाई चांस मैं किसी मीटिंग में नहीं उठाया हुआ है किसी मजबूरी की वजह से, तो मैं कॉल बैक 100% कर रहा हूँ। और स्टूडेंट्स मुझसे बात भी कर रहे हैं, जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल कार्तिक गुप्ता, तो कार्तिक गुप्ता पर्सनली मुझसे बात कर रहा है और उसको मैं गाइडेंस भी दे रहा हूँ। अभी कार्तिक गुप्ता की आशीष जी बात कर रहे थे, और स्टूडेंट्स भी मुझे कॉल कर रहे हैं और पूछ रहे हैं, एंड दे आर टेकिंग फुल एडवांटेज, एंड वी आर देयर फॉर 100% होल्डिंग, कंप्लीट हैंड होल्डिंग हम आपकी करेंगे। और ऐसा नहीं कि आपको कंप्लीट गाइडेंस देंगे, सो दैट कि आप कहीं पर भी कमी नहीं रहनी चाहिए। आप अपनी प्रिपरेशन करो और गाइडेंस वी विल प्रोवाइड इन फुल। तो स्टूडेंट्स आप मेरे फोन नंबर आप नोट कर सकते हैं, 9718036119 एंड 9466789298। आशीष जी भी आपको लास्ट में लिख देंगे। आशीष जी आप लिख देना मेरे दोनों नंबर
डेफिनेटली
सो दैट इट विल बिकम इजी। अभी टाइम की पॉसिबिलिटी है, मैं थोड़ी और बातें इनसे कर लूंगा स्टूडेंट से। सो जो स्टूडेंट ये कह रहे, पहले स्टूडेंट राहुल ने ये बोला था कि हम, क्या क्वेश्चन था आशीष जी, मैंने एड्रेस कर दिया वैसे क्वेश्चन, कि हम ब्रीफ नोट्स कैसे बनाएं, नोट्स कैसे बनाएं। तो नोट्स आप एक बार ऐसे मैं बताऊंगा तो आप उसको फॉलो नहीं, क्योंकि बिकॉज नोट्स बनाने की हर स्टूडेंट की, बिलीव मी, अगर 100 स्टूडेंट है तो 100 स्टूडेंट अपने हिसाब से नोट्स बनाते हैं, और 100 के 2 ठीक होते हैं। तो आप अपने नोट्स जो भी बनाओ, एक बार सैंपल मुझे 2-4 पेज व्हाट्सएप कर देना, मैंने नंबर बता दिए, आप व्हाट्सएप करके मैं आपको बता दूंगा, कॉल करके बता दूंगा, नोट्स में कोई दिक्कत होगी तो वो भी बता दूंगा। तो आप एक बार मुझे व्हाट्सएप कर देना, मैं अगर मेल नहीं कर सकते तो व्हाट्सएप कर देना, तो ठीक है। और कॉल जरूर कर देना कि सर मैंने व्हाट्सएप करा, क्योंकि व्हाट्सएप मैं बहुत ज्यादा नहीं देख पाता, ठीक है।
धनलक्ष्मी का क्वेश्चन था कि शी फॉरगेट्स।
हाँ धनलक्ष्मी, आप बिल्कुल भी इस बारे में आपको मैं एक यूसी की बहुत अच्छा एक फॉर्मूला दे रहा हूं कि आप प्रैक्टिस ना छोड़ो। अगर मान लिया जाए धनलक्ष्मी, आप ऐसा करो, अगर आप 3 दिन तक प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हो तो उसे 5 दिन तक कर लो। अगर 5 डेज में भी नहीं हो पा रहा तो उसे इनिशियली आप 7 डेज तक ले जाओ। अगर आप 7 डेज के बाद भी भूलते हो, आई रियली डाउट कि आप 7 डेज के बाद भी भूलोगे, आप प्रैक्टिस करो 7 डेज 5 times reading for 7 days, 5 times reading for 7 days, और अंडरस्टैंडिंग कंसेप्चुअल अगर आपको क्लैरिटी है तो उसके बाद आप बिल्कुल भी नहीं भूलेंगे, आपको पक्का एस्टेब्लिश हो जाएगा आपके माइंड में। अगर फिर भी आप भूलते हो तो आप मुझे बताना, हम कोई और मेथड डिवाइस कर लेंगे इसका, लेकिन 7 days टेक्निक विल वर्क।
Kartik Gupta has one more suggestion to give. He says, can we prepare some sort of WhatsApp group of students?
Definitely, yes, you are welcome students. आप WhatsApp ग्रुप बनाओ, नो प्रॉब्लम एट ऑल। आप पहली बात तो मुझे कॉल ही करो, और स्टूडेंट्स अगर ग्रुप भी बनाए तो मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। यू आर वेलकम स्टूडेंट्स, एनी टाइप ऑफ दिस थिंग, कम्युनिकेशन इज ए वेलकम मूव, आप जैसे भी करो। लेकिन द थिंग इज कि आप तैयारी पे फोकस करो, आप अपनी तैयारी पे। और जितने भी स्टूडेंट्स, एक और मैं सबसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा, जितने भी स्टूडेंट्स अभी सुन पा रहे हैं, आप अपने फ्रेंड्स को बताओ, जो आपके फ्रेंड्स हैं इस बार नहीं क्लियर कर पाए तो हम उनको नेक्स्ट नवंबर के लिए अच्छी तैयारी कराएंगे, उनको कंप्लीट गाइडेंस देंगे, सो दैट दे मे आल्सो पास विद फ्लाइंग कलर्स। और किसी भी स्टूडेंट्स को कोई घबराने की जरूरत नहीं है। स्पेसिफिकली इन ऑडिटिंग आप कभी भी कोई भी क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हो, और तैयारी आप एक बार, प्रॉब्लम क्या है स्टूडेंट्स, जो मैं विजुअलाइज करता हूँ प्रॉब्लम, वो आशीष जी भी जानते हैं और लोग जो पढ़ाते हैं वो भी जानते हैं कि स्टूडेंट्स स्टार्ट ही नहीं करते। दिस इज द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम। आप एक बार, जैसे मैं गाइड कर रहा हूँ, शुरू तो करो, दिस इज व्हाट आई मीन टू से। आप एक बार इंप्लीमेंटेशन उसका शुरू करो, जैसे हम गाइड कर रहे हैं वैसे करना शुरू करो, बिकॉज प्रैक्टिस है हर चीज। मोस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स जो है वो प्रैक्टिस से आ जाती हैं। आप 5 दिन तक प्रैक्टिस करो एक चीज की, आपको मजा भी, फिर 5 दिन बाद क्या हो जाएगा, एंजॉयमेंट भी होनी शुरू हो जाती है, आपको मजा भी आने लग जाएगा। जो ही मजा आने लगेगा तो आपको जल्दी, सारे काम जल्दी, जो आज आपको इतने मुश्किल काम लग रहे हैं वो फिर जल्दी होने शुरू हो जाएंगे, और फिर मुश्किल भी कम जब मेरे को आनंद आने लग जाएगा किसी चीज में, व्हेन आई स्टार्ट एंजॉयिंग माय स्टडीज, तो फिर मेरे लिए ना तो रिटेन करना मुश्किल रहेगा, और आनंद भी आ रहा है तो फटाफट उसके 10 टाइम्स रिजल्ट आएंगे, आप बिलीव मी। और आप अपनी लैंग्वेज में भी उसे बना पाएंगे। कितने आपको फायदे, इसके 100 गुना फायदे आपको होने वाले हैं। लेकिन एक बार शुरू तो करो। मैं कहता हूँ 10 डेज एक बार आप करके देखो एक्सपेरिमेंट, और 11th डे आपको आनंद, अपने आप मजा आना शुरू हो जाएगा ऑडिटिंग के अंदर। और ये प्रैक्टिकली टाइम टेस्टेड टेक्निक्स हैं। मैं कोई ऑलरेडी ऐसा नहीं, बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स जो मुझे फॉलो करते हैं वो ऑलरेडी कर चुके हैं काम। और बिलीव मी स्टूडेंट्स जो 28 नंबर ले रहे थे उनके 60 नंबर आ रहे हैं, दे आर स्कोरिंग 60 मार्क्स। और स्टूडेंट्स मेरे को मेल भी लिखते हैं कि सर मैंने लास्ट अटेम्प्ट में मेरे 28 से आपकी स्ट्रेटेजी फॉलो करके और 60 मार्क्स मेरे आए। तो मेरे पास मेल्स हैं, वेल डॉक्यूमेंटेड। आप बिल्कुल एक बार शुरू करो। व्हाट आई एम सजेस्टिंग इज जस्ट स्टार्ट इट और इंप्लीमेंट शुरू कर दो। आफ्टर 10 डेज आपको रिजल्ट मिलने शुरू हो जाना है। तो ये तो कितने स्टूडेंट्स आशीष जी अभी राइट नाउ कौन कौन है यहाँ पे जो देख रहे हैं? कुछ स्टूडेंट्स के नाम धनलक्ष्मी,
कार्तिक गुप्ता, धनलक्ष्मी, हितेश जैन,
ओके,
आयुष अग्रवाल, प्रभास जैन।
तो ऑल स्टूडेंट्स, मैं सभी स्टूडेंट्स को यही कहूंगा कि आप एक बार फॉलो करना शुरू करो और अपने और फ्रेंड्स को भी बताओ। और मैंने नंबर अपने शेयर किए हैं, आप यू आर ऑलवेज वेलकम। और ग्रुप बनाना है तो कार्तिक गुप्ता आप मुझे फोन कर लेना और फिर हम ग्रुप जैसे कहोगे वैसे बना लेंगे। मैं थोड़ा सा व्हाट्सएप से भी कम हूँ, लेकिन फिर भी कोई नो प्रॉब्लम, मैं व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप को भी हैंडल कर लूंगा। जैसे भी व्हाट्सएप देख लेंगे कैसे चलाना है।
So Karthik, I think your wish has been granted by sir, that you should be happy that he has allowed to make a WhatsApp group of students. You should be happy, and you should feel gratitude. I think it would be useful for all of you.
Yes, no problem. Students can form a group of WhatsApp, or we are there to answer each and every query of the student, and no problem at all. But the thing is, students तैयारी शुरू करें. This is my main thrust is कि students पढ़ना तो शुरू करें. At least अभी लेक्चर आपकी कंसेप्ट बिल्डिंग 50% रोल प्ले करेगी, लेकिन बाकी जो स्ट्रेटेजीज है जो मैं आपको समझा रहा हूँ, क्वेश्चंस तैयार करने एग्जाम में, फिर उनको वहां पे लिखना, तो वो जो मैंने आपको तरीके बताए उससे आप एग्जाम में परफॉर्म कर पाओगे, आपके रिजल्ट इट विल कन्वर्ट इनटू रिजल्ट। और आप जितना फोकस, कुछ ऐसे भी स्टूडेंट्स होंगे जो अभी जिनका अभी रिजल्ट आया होगा, मे बी दे माइट बी आल्सो बी अटेंडिंग एलबीसी, तो आपने क्या करना है स्टूडेंट्स, जो स्टूडेंट्स का रिजल्ट नहीं हुआ क्लियर, उनके लिए मैं एडवाइस कर रहा हूं कि आपने अपने माइंड में जो अभी तैयारी करनी है, 3 मंथ्स आपके पास जो है, आपने बिल्कुल फ्रेश तैयारी करनी है, और जो पास्ट में जो हो चुका है उसको नहीं घुमाना कभी भी। सो आपने क्या करना है, आपने नए तरीके से तैयारी शुरू करनी है, आज से ही तैयारी शुरू करें, और डू नॉट पोस्टपोन द थिंग्स, और एक नए तरीके से, नई सोच से तैयारी शुरू करें। और ये बिल्कुल नहीं आपने सोचना कि हम पास्ट में फेल हो चुके हैं, और ये सोचें कि हमने तो पास होना ही होना है, किसी भी कीमत पर पास होना ही होना है, और वी विल गेट थ्रू, हमारे पास अच्छी स्ट्रेटजीज हैं, अच्छी गाइडेंस है, हमने तो पास होना ही होना है। तो आप जो स्टूडेंट्स पहले एग्जाम दे भी चुके हैं, मुझे कॉल कर लें, मेरे पास 1-2 स्टूडेंट्स के फोन भी आए, मैं अभी नाम नहीं याद कर पा रहा, लेकिन आए हैं जिनका दोज हु कुडंट क्वालिफाई, तो वो अभी हमारे साथ चलेंगे, और मे बी कि वो भी फ्लाइंग कलर से पास होंगे।
Sir, Karthik Gupta has shared his mobile number and he is asking whether you can tell the number online so that we can form a WhatsApp group. So can we share his number, Karthik Gupta's number?
हाँ, why not? No, I think there should be no problem. You can share so that those students who are interested in the group can join the group, and other students, those who are not interested in the groups, can call me directly. Those who are interested can join the group formed by Karthik Gupta, and those students who are not interested may not join, and they can call me directly.
Yes, so I am sharing Karthik Gupta's number. Students, you may write down his number. Karthik Gupta's mobile number is what he has shared for only purpose of forming WhatsApp groups.
Ashish ji, students ka number, I don't know whether it is advisable to share on the social media or this in this online class. We will share in the next class. I will check the modalities.
So Karthik Gupta, you
I will speak to Karthik Gupta.
You can directly call Rajiv sir, and he can work out the modalities of forming WhatsApp group.
Yes. It would be better. It would be better. I will speak to him. So you can continue with your class, sir. Or
yes,
please share my both mobile numbers, and students can call me directly for their queries. In the meantime, till WhatsApp group is formed, they can call me anytime.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, students.
Yes, students. So you had words of wisdom from CA Rajiv Sudeva, sir, Faculty Board of Studies. So now we shall be doing the remaining part of this chapter. One topic which was left, guys, it was fraud risk factors. It was fraud risk factors. So it is at point 4, page 5.13 of your module. Fraud risk factors. Now, students, what are fraud risk factors? What is the meaning of fraud risk factors? Fraud risk factors are events or conditions that indicate an incentive or pressure to commit fraud or to provide an opportunity to commit fraud. Says there is some factor, there is some condition which prompts somebody else to commit a fraud. Like I had given you an example in our last lecture that say management may be tempted to commit a fraud to show some better results. It may be tempted to overstate its revenue, and in the process it might commit a fraud because it might do so because of say certain competitive pressures, certain pressures of market forces, or this could be due to some another reason. And similarly, we had also learned that fraud is also committed when there is a perceived opportunity to commit fraud. When the person who is likely to commit a fraud, he senses an opportunity there. He senses an opportunity there that if he commits a fraud, then he will not be caught, and he can bypass the control systems of the company. That all the control systems can be overridden by him, because he is in such a position that he knows that he can bypass those systems. So all these factors which contribute to these things, these are known as fraud risk factors. Okay, so these are known as fraud risk factors. So we had learned that fraud can take any one of the form. It may be due to fraudulent financial reporting, or it may be due to misappropriation of assets. Now, while making fraudulent financial reporting, there might be several fraudulent risk factors. There might be several fraud risk factors for the management. There might be some incentive or pressure, or there might be some opportunities, or it could be that attitude of the persons is of the key persons in the management is such that they are engaged in these kind of ways, that they are adopting all these kind of unhealthy, unethical practices. Okay. So here in this part of your module, examples are given to you for you to have a better understanding of what fraud risk factors are. Okay. So we shall be discussing all those examples under the both heads of fraudulent financial reporting and misappropriation of assets. Okay, so under fraudulent financial reporting, we shall also be considering three factors: incentives or pressures, perceived opportunities, and rationalization of acts. And ditto in case of misappropriation of assets. Okay, so there are examples given. Now, risk factors relating to misstatements arising from fraudulent financial reporting. Now, when management carries out fraudulent financial reporting, when the company carries out fraudulent financial reporting, what could be the possible factors? What could be the incentives or pressure on the management to do so? Like I have told you, high degree of competition, or market saturation, or say some technology has changed, some new model of business has come up. Say like 7-10 years ago, there were no food delivery platforms. It was now in the past few years, it is a new kind of business. So it is posing a threat to established business players in that segment. Okay. So, and when their market is down, the established players might be tempted to commit a fraud, to present rosy results, which actually not are so rosy. Okay. So these are all business factors which contribute, which prompt the management to indulge in fraudulent financial reporting, or say customer demand has declined, or there is overall slump in the economy, and there is overall slump in the economy, but I have taken credit limits from the banks. So what the company is going to do? Okay, if the company's sales revenues are very much down, so the management might be tempted to overstate its revenues, to commit fraud by overstating its revenues, to show so much sales to the banks. Okay, so these type of things, operating losses. So a business is facing losses. It is in fact making losses, but due to some reasons, it wants to show rosy picture. It wants to show a healthy picture. Say the company is planning to raise some money from the market, but actually it is incurring losses. So of that year, it tries to present the rosy picture by overstating its revenue, by overstating its profits. Okay, so these are the fraud risk factors for fraudulent financial reporting under incentive pressures or pressures category. So these are explained here so as to make you better understand what could be these factors, what is their nature. Okay, now opportunities. Second category is opportunities in the heading of fraudulent financial reporting. Now say there are significant related party transactions which are not in the ordinary course of business, or with some related entities which are not audited. So there is a scope. Say the company is associated with some other concern. It is a sister concern of some other organization, but the accounts of that organizations are not audited. So obviously the management of the company senses an opportunity that since the accounts of that company are of that organization are not audited, so by showing some transactions with that organization, with that concern, whose accounts are not subject to audit, we can manipulate the results. So it becomes a case of perceived opportunity. So it becomes a case of perceived opportunity for the management. Okay. And one important point is significant, unusual, highly complex transactions, especially those close to the period that pose difficult substance over form questions. So guys, we had already discussed this substance over form type of accounting concept in one of our previous interactive sessions. So I had told you that according to this accounting concept, substance is more important than form which is prescribed legally. So what does it mean? It means that the results or the state of affairs presented by the financial statements should be such that it is not misleading. Although it may be in accordance with the legal forms, but it may be in accordance with the financial reporting framework legally, but the actual results, what it wants to convey, it should not be opposite to what the form is suggesting. So this is the meaning of substance over form. So when there are complex situations involving substance over form questions, then also higher ups in the management may sense an opportunity. They perceive an opportunity to commit a fraud. Okay, because the issue involved is so complex, issue involved is of so much magnitude that management thinks that they can always befool the auditor. They can always dupe the auditor and they can commit a fraud, and auditor will not be able to point out it, because fraud done in such a manner would be very sophisticated. Okay, and it would be done in a planned way. So this is again an example of opportunities. How financial reporting, how fraudulent financial reporting can be done by using opportunities available. So guys, all these things are theoretical, are building a theoretical framework so that you can understand what prompts the people to commit fraud. Why do people commit fraud? So that once you understand the psychology, once you understand that these could be the reasons for committing fraud, obviously your level of professional skepticism also goes up. Your level of alertness also goes up. So that is why they are making you to study all these things. Otherwise, you will be saying, "Sir, why to study this? What is our relevance of these points for us to study?" So this is the relevance. So unless and until you understand relevance of something, you cannot do justice to that thing, to that topic. Is that clear, guys? Now, attitude rationalizations. Now, again, the same thing. Now, if some key managerial persons, if some key person in the company, they are known to follow unhealthy practices. They are unethical. Okay, so like they have been violating, say, security laws. They have been violating SEBI regulations in past. So if the track record of such a person is that he is having attitude of unethical behavior, like I told you, sab chalta hai, that they would say that this happens. You can't do business like that. Okay, so they try to rationalize every wrong thing they are doing. They would give you logic, they would give you justification for every wrong act being done by them. But you have to remember, guys, wrong means wrong. If some act is unethical, then it remains unethical. No amount of justification can justify it. And one more important thing, say if the management failing to remedy known significant deficiency in internal control on timely basis. The management knows that there are deficiencies in internal control system, but the management does not remove those deficiencies. Okay, the management does not remove those deficiencies. So what does this point to? इसका क्या मतलब है? What does this point to? This points to the fact that management is not serious in removing those deficiencies. So if the management is not serious, it means that management is itself going to be a party to the fraud. That the key persons of a company, they are having attitudes of justifying. They are having attitudes of justifying every unethical act they are doing. Okay, because I know as a management person that say glaring deficiencies exist in my internal control system of purchases. Say it can lead to frauds. I know, but still I am not taking any corrective action. So what does it show? It only points to the fact that I am not serious about addressing this issue. That I'll say, okay, it doesn't, that I am not bothered about the fraud, that my attitude is such. So you understand what we mean by rationalization and attitudes. Okay. Or another example. So guys, there are many examples given which you can have a look. So I am just making you understand some important examples. Like the owner manager makes no distinction between personal and business transaction. Say if a company does not make a distinction between the expenditure which the company has to incur and which are the personal expenses of the managerial person. So what they are doing, they are utilizing the assets of the company. They are deriving the benefits from the company out of the books. Okay. So it also shows that these kind of things point to the fact that persons who are in the command of the company, they are indulging in unethical practices and they are trying to justify it somehow. Okay. Now, again, for misappropriation of assets, again examples are given relating to incentive pressures, opportunities, and rationalization of acts. Say the examples are given. Say if there are you can say there is the employees of the companies anticipate layoffs. They feel that they would be kicked out of their jobs in the near future. They feel that they may be kicked out of their jobs, or they feel that there has to be some adverse change is being planned in their compensation packages, or their salary might be reduced, say. So in that cases, there would be incentive for them to misappropriate assets of the company, because in future, if the employees have this feeling that in future their compensation packages are going to be reduced, what they are getting as per for what remuneration they are getting in course of performance of their duties, it is reduced, or they would not be getting some sort of increment which was expected. So it might act as a significant factor for them to commit frauds. They might engage themselves in activities such as defalcation of cash. Okay, because they would not be internally satisfied. Their satisfaction level would be low. So therefore, they would be tempted to commit frauds. And opportunities, now for misappropriation of assets, like opportunities, like say if a company deals in huge volume of cash, so daily there are huge cash receipts in a company, or the cash is dealt by 3, 4, 5 persons. So when huge amount of cash is dealt, obviously human mind, it is natural that some unethical, unscrupulous persons, they would sense an opportunity, okay, to commit a fraud, to misappropriate some amount of cash, to book fake vouchers, or say to show say a person who is dealing with huge cash, he is also responsible for preparing payrolls. So he might put the name of few dummy workers in the payrolls and misappropriate the cash himself. Because why? Because there was an opportunity available with him. He was responsible for preparing payrolls as well as for handling of cash, and taking advantage of the situation that he would not be caught, he may commit a fraud. Similarly, if there are inventory items that are small in size of high value, say like we say in case of a jewelry shop, say we take example of a jewelry company which has got stores all over India. Okay, so the inventory items are small in size but high in value. One ornament costing lakhs of rupees. So again, there is an opportunity for the employees to commit fraud. That is why to stop fraud, such companies develop a comprehensive internal control systems, including security system like presence of a security guard, installation of 24/7 CCTV cameras. So when you go to a big jewelry showroom store, you might have seen these things. These are all internal controls. Okay, like one salesperson would show you the ornaments, and other will take that box for billing section. Okay, and it would be checked by another person. So when you move out, the security guard also checks your bill. So this is an example of inventory items that are small in size but of high value or in high demand. So again, the similar example is there. Diamonds, easily convertible assets, diamonds. It is there in your module. So I'm giving you the example from my mind, but it is there in your module, diamonds, because these can be easily sold and converted into cash. So it gives an opportunity to the employee to commit fraud. Okay. So that is why the managements in such companies have developed a sound internal control system. So these are some of the examples given. Now attitude rationalization. Now what could be the attitude rationalization under misappropriation of assets category? Like say a very beautiful example is given, tolerance of petty theft. Now say I know that an employee has committed a theft of a very small amount, say of 1,000 rupees. He has given fake bill. I catch him being part of the company. Say I catch him and he feels sorry, and I say, okay, you better care for the next time. So what happens in such a case? The confidence level of employee may get increased. So in such cases, if some petty thefts are tolerated, then it may lead to a situation that he may be tempted to commit some bigger fraud, because now he has committed a small fraud and he knows the intricacies, and next time he might get better sense and he might take precautions and he might not be caught. Okay. Or say there are changes in behavior or lifestyle that may indicate assets have been misappropriated. So if an employee, say if he is getting 50,000 salary, but the way he dresses up, the gadgets he is carrying, or the lifestyle he is following, that is very disproportionate to his income. Okay, so these things all indicate that he might have misappropriated assets. Okay, guys. So again, there are circumstances relating to possibility of fraud. 3-4 points are given, which could indicate to the auditor that frauds could be there. Now, discrepancies in accounting records. Now, if there are discrepancies in accounting record, there is some conflicting evidence regarding to different aspects of books of accounts. Then it points out that there can be possibility of fraud, or there is some unauthorized transaction being carried out which is without any supporting base. No bill is available, fake expenses have been booked but no supporting document is available, cash entries have been made, but even in that respect, even in respect of those cash entries, no supporting proof is available. So it might happen, it might be so that a fraud has been committed and the money has been siphoned out by debiting to the accounts of some persons. Okay, so these are kinds of discrepancies in the accounting records, including last minute adjustments that significantly affect financial results. Say some transactions have been made near the cutoff date, near the date of balance sheet. Okay, so these might be so large that these have the ability to change the whole picture which the financial statements are representing. So these are the some of the examples of discrepancies in the accounting records which can show that there is a possibility of fraud. Okay, conflicting or missing evidence, like the auditor comes to know of some missing bills, some documents that have been fabricated or that have been altered, that have been changed. Okay, or say there is say when by applying audit procedures, the auditor has obtained external confirmations and there is significant differences between the balances shown in the books of accounts and from external confirmation received. Then if the differences are huge, then it could indicate to the auditor that there is a possibility of fraud. The circumstances might indicate the possibility of fraud. Missing inventory or physical items, or if there are some items which are inventory items, significant inventory items which are missing. So these can also indicate possibility of fraud. And one more important thing, if the relationship between auditor and the management is not healthy, it is problematical. So the auditor is asking the information, but the management is not providing it. Okay, the management does not provide all the information. The management does not provide all records. The management restricts the scope of inquiry. It does not allow the auditor to meet with the important personnel in the company. Then what would happen? What does it show? It shows that management is not willing to cooperate with the auditor because management wants to hide something. So it might be an indicator of fraud. It might show circumstances that there could be a possibility of fraud. Okay, guys. So guys, with this thing, we have concluded our chapter on fraud, chapter number 5. So broadly, to summarize what we have learned in chapter 5, we have learned meaning of fraud. We have learned that fraud can take the form of fraudulent financial reporting, or it could be due to the misappropriation of assets. So as an auditor, what is the duty of auditor as regards frauds is concerned? As per SA 240, we have learned that auditor has to perform the audit of financial statements in accordance with standards on auditing by carrying out the audit with all the professional skill he has, with all the due diligence, by taking reasonable care, and by conducting the audit in accordance with principles laid down in standards on auditing, by applying all those audit procedures. But we have also to remember that primary responsibility of prevention and detection of fraud lies with the management. The auditor comes on the picture afterwards. And if the auditor can demonstrate that he has carried out his audit with the due care and skill, by keeping keeping in mind high professional standards, by maintaining an attitude of professional skepticism throughout the audit, then he cannot be held liable, even if if some fraud has been discovered after he has submitted his report. But the caveat, the condition is that he has to demonstrate it. He has to show it. So how he is going to show it? He would show it by keeping proper audit documentation. He would maintain proper audit working papers. So what we have read about audit documentation in chapter 3, he has to maintain all those documentation to save himself from any liability. Okay, and it would be unreasonable for the management to expect that in audited financial statements there can be no frauds, as we have learned that there can be a possibility that even though auditor has conducted the audit in accordance with standards on auditing by employing all the professional skill, even then there could be a possibility that fraud may come out. Because why it is so? Because it is due to the inherent limitations of audit. The same thing what we have learnt in chapter 1. So this is what analytical thinking, linkage of thinking. You do one thing and you link it, you try to link it with other concepts, okay, of what you have studied till now. So we have also learned how fraud reporting is to be done by the auditor of a company under Companies Act 2013. We have also learnt about section 143 subsection 12 and provisions of clause 11 of CARO 2020. And we have also learnt what is the difference between the reporting requirements of both the legal requirements. Okay, guys. So I think you have got sufficient clarity about this chapter, and you have got a good word of wisdom from CA Rajiv Sadeva sir, and I hope that you will follow his advice on how to prepare. So guys, this is over for today, and I hope that you must have enjoyed the learning, and happy preparation time, guys. Okay, guys, best of luck to all of you. Good night, guys. Good night.